Are you a fan of selling on eBay and you're thinking about going the route of using the bins to source your items? Well, we've got some ideas about that and some reasons why you might want to think twice about using the bins as your primary way to source for your eBay reselling business. Hello, everyone. I am Prof Sales and welcome to the Prof Sales YouTube channel. I'm joined by my sidekick.
Just ask Kaaren.
And on this channel, we talk about being in business for yourself, being an entrepreneur, selling on e-commerce platforms like eBay and Amazon, and creating just a positive community in our little niche of the internet. And we are glad you're here today. There's people watching in a live chat, and you can always join us. We're usually on at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you can join us live in the moment or of course, leave a question or comment afterwards.
Down below. And you can subscribe and you can like it or not, but we'd rather you like it by smashing the like button, mateys.
That's exactly right.
So hi, everybody. Wes is with us this morning. Aaron K is here. Oh, watching from afar. How cool is that?
Someone's watching from Fiji right now.
Ooh, that's what I said. That's the Aaron K.
Yeah, you said from afar, from Fiji, actually.
So far.
I'm not sure where Fiji is, the Pacific Ocean somewhere, right? I'm pretty sure.
Drumma, Susan, Beth Ann, Fabiola again. Hello.
Yes. We're glad you guys are here today. If you have a question or comment, please type it in the chat box. Type the word question or some question marks in front of it so that we know that you are asking a question. And of course, leave a question or comment after the video post, as we mentioned, and we will do our best to answer it.
I already have a question from Beth Ann.
Oh, you do, don't you?
So Just Ask Kaaren will be back on the scene officially next week. I'm working on finishing up a couple of projects this weekend. And I have to go Seinfeld. The non-Seinfeld watcher in the group needs to say from Adam to you, no Benz for you. No Benz.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? I didn't do a very good job, but you know.
Yes. So all right. So, Kaaren and I have this ongoing discussion about topics and things that we're going to talk about. And this one's been on my mind as of late. As some of you know, we have sold at the bins before, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But right now we do not. But for those of you who do not know what the bins are, I think Karen's going to explain kind of what the bins means.
So if it's a new term for you, and we do like to define our terms here on the Prof Sales Mathematical eBay e-commerce selling challenge channel, it's bins, B-I-N-S, not to be confused with bends. That's something you get if you come up too fast when you're scuba diving.
Oh, the bin.
Not pretty. And there's also, in all honesty, there's also a bin, a buy it now reference from eBay.
There's also a bins from Mercedes.
Oh, I see what you did there. But BIN, so as not to confuse our terms in the reselling community, especially for new resellers, we're referring to wholesale, not wholesale. So a bin is where you go and you buy product by the pound. For us, more often than not, it would be a Goodwill. And it's like an outlet of sorts. It's where all the misfit toys go to die. No. So it's a place where they roll out bins and you go through and you spend time and piece by piece. It's not shelved. It's not individually priced. And you end up paying by pound, right?
Right. And for the most part, the items you will see at the bins are not organized. They typically are put in bins, in boxes, on big rolling tables. There's different methods, different stores and so on. But they're all just lumped together. Sometimes they will pull out hard goods to certain sections, and then clothing all gets sort of lumped together. So imagine if you took, a couple thousand square feet of clothing and just put a bunch of tables in a room and just dumped all the clothing on the tables. Is that a fair representation? And they do switch out the tables.
Right. And because you're buying the items by the pound instead of, say, $5.99 for your jeans or $4.99 for your shoes or whatever, typically when you hear resellers talk about buying items at the bins or outlet, you're only paying about $1 per piece per item is what it averages out to. Right. Especially if you're mixing up.
Which is cheap.
Which especially if you're mixing up, your jeans with your shirts, with your whatevers that you find. It's definitely a good price.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, like we said, we have had experience shopping the bins multiple times. We have bought items from the bins. We have sold items in the bins. But there's a lot of people who watch this channel and in the reselling community who are fairly new or just aren't super experienced in reselling. And they are often directed towards the bins, or at least there's some allure to that. And I wanted to kind of tackle some of the logic, I don't know if that's the right word, behind
or illogic
that seems to get put out there in the community. So I'm going to start with a hypothetical. You guys know that I love hypotheticals, and of course we have our show notes.
Right. So before you go,
I'm sorry.
I always feel compelled to repeat our disclaimer, right?
Disclaimer.
If we're doing anything here today, it's challenging you to look at something from a different point of view or perspective.
Right.
In no way, shape, or form are we telling anyone that they're doing it wrong.
Right.
We just want to challenge you. If you're either looking to get into this business or if you're currently in this model, just stay with us. Don't get your feathers ruffled right out of the gate. Just stay with us. See if you can keep up and not discard all the math here. But we've given it a lot of thought, and we just want to kind of challenge you to look at it in a different way.
That's well said, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I totally forgot about that.
Because otherwise, you're going to get in all kinds of trouble, and people are going to say all the things.
It's what I do. But I'm going to start with a hypothetical example. All right. Now, let's say that you are new to the reselling game, and you decide to give it a shot. You've finagled figuring out how to jump on eBay and create a selling account, whatever. And you have a little bit of capital you want to commit, but you don't want to commit too much, right? Which makes sense because you don't know if you're going to like it or if it's going to be for you. So let's assume you have $50, $50. So if you had $50 and you could buy something and then sell something, what would be sort of the ideal model? Well, let me explain what I think the ideal model would be. And this is in a vacuum. This is, again, hypothetical. Ideally, to maximize your profit and minimize your time and energy and capital spent, well, we already know your capital is $50. Ideally, you would buy one item for $50. You would photograph that item, you would list that item, and you would sell that item in a very quick time frame. And what would you sell it for? Well, I would argue like a good target might be $100 to $150. That's going to give you a good profit. If you sold for $150, you would probably have enough to go buy 2 more of those items after fees and so on.
It's the whole, when we were in elementary school, and it was the whole cookie sale thing, right?
Right.
You had to make enough money to buy the ingredients. It was like this it was for some of us our first economics lesson. But basically, we made enough money not only to make another batch of cookies, but then to sell 2 more.
Right.
And so it perpetuated and supported itself, right?
Right. So that would be in a perfect world, I think the perfect thing to flip, especially if you were brand new to this game. You buy one item, you spend all your capital on one item, you only got to list one item, it sells quickly and sells for a good amount of money. Like that's the hypothetical sort of ideal situation in my opinion. The bins prevent everything I just said. You cannot do that easily with a bin sourcing strategy. And let's talk about why. Very simply, you have to sort through hundreds, if not thousands of items to find 50 $1 items. Remember you said most of the time at the bins, it's going to average out to around $1 an item, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, depending on the weight of the item. But you're going to have to look through hundreds, if not thousands of items.
And then once you find your 50 items after spending, and we're talking more like people that are just new at this, right? Because we're actually going to make a comparison into why and all of that as we go. But once you pick your 50 items and you spend the time getting the thingies, you're going to have to quality control them, right? You're going to have to spend the time. And a lot of us do this in the moment, but we actually have a 2-part, even 3-part. Like we're always, whenever we come into contact with an item, we're making sure that it's high standard, right? It fits our high standards.
Right.
So you're not only going to have to check over all those 50 things, but you're going to have to photograph all those 50 things, right? Where remember, in that first one item, $50 only example, one item, right? So now we're having to go each part of the process, each thing times 50, right?
That's right.
And maybe in that first month, if your sell-through follows the trends, maybe even if it's a little high, you'll sell maybe 10 to 15 of those things in the first month, right?
I mean, 20 would be a really good month. If you sold 40% of those first 50 in the first month, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fantastic results.
And then the numbers, if they kept going, maybe you'd sell 10 in the second month. So keeping track of how much money you're putting on, and so on and so on.
So it would take you, right off the bat, a lot of time and energy, a lot more than our hypothetical $150 item example, a lot more time and energy than to sell the one item. We know that's a given. You would have to take hundreds of photos, look at 50 different items, figure out where to store those 50 items and so on. 50 clothing items doesn't take up that much room, and then you're going to sell some. Now, some of you are going to say to me, yeah, Prof, but the profit you're going to make on those 50 items is higher than the one item you sold that you bought for $50 total. You're right, it is. But I'm going to say to you, you're not going to get all that profit right away. Mm-hmm. And you're going to spend a tremendous amount more time to get that profit, which we'll get to in a moment.
And that's one of the things we talk about a lot is holding up your capital, right? It's one thing to get a great deal on that pair of shoes or that jeans or that hat, jacket, whatever, mm-hmm. But how long are you willing to sit on it? And that's something that we struggle with all the time. We're blowing out some jeans right now that we're embarrassed to say have just sat too long, but it's time, right? So, you're, like you said, you're going to sit, and that's not even, I don't even know if I would consider some of that just sits a long tail. That's another word resellers use a lot. And it means that it's something you buy, you're going to make a high profit for, but you're going to sit on it for a longer period of time, purposefully, because it's a one buyer, one niche, one item kind of attraction, right?
Yep. So let's talk about why, especially if you're a newer seller, you have several disadvantages when it comes to sourcing at the bins and using that as your strategy. And you want to ping pong back and forth on these?
You want me to start?
Sure.
One of the biggies, I think, when you're new, or even when you're, all right, so we're talking about new resellers. So if you're an older reseller, look at it like maybe you're going into a new niche. But new resellers, the biggest hurdle is lack of brand knowledge. Like, not even to mention if you don't know what thingies you want to sell, right? You walk into an outlet or a bin store and it's a little intimidating, right?
It's a lot.
And you're expected to go through, and I kid you not, people, mountains of clothing, like literal mountains heaped up of clothing. And if you don't instantly have, or because of your personal history or whatever, have that brand knowledge already tucked away, and even more so than the brand knowledge, the trending of said brands, whether they're good or not, or if they're going to maintain or whatever, you're going to have to take the time to educate yourself in the moment on the fly, and it's going to take time.
Tremendous amount of time, because now, again, remember, your time is that one commodity you cannot get more of. The second part of that is tied directly into the second reason that you have a big disadvantage sourcing the bins. It's disorganized. It's very disorganized, and that disorganization makes even a niche approach very challenging. We would go to the bins and try to use our niches of shoes and jeans, and even being able to pull through everything and pull out all the jeans and shoes took a while, especially like in a couple, like the one down there in Columbia. Like, they start it in one bin, and then it all gets tipped over into another one on the floor. And you literally have to pull stuff back up off the floor onto the table and then kind of put it back down on the floor to see what else was left on the table. I mean, there's no easy way to do it. And that lack of disorganization compared to, say, like, even like a yard sale is more organized in the bins, like way more organized in the bins usually. So I think that is a huge disadvantage.
And remember how we mentioned, or I think I said it, so island of misfit toys. Consider that a lot of times items that end up in the bins have already been handled or processed or traded and swapped around to different stores or locations several times.
Sure.
I'm going to be gross for a second. So there's a reason why sometimes when you walk into an outlet store, it smells like urine.
Yes.
I'm just going to be honest. So the things have kind of, island of misfit clothes, maybe.
Yeah.
So the chances of there being a defect or a yucky or a dirty or a whatevery are very high, right? And even if you were to come upon, say, a great brand or this really hot item, and our impulse, did you just, Cha-Ching, could just stop? take two. So even if you came upon that just, holy grail of things, and your impulse is just to snag it before somebody else tackles you for it, which has happened before.
Right.
I'm not going to tell any names here, but you grab it, you throw it in your cart, you forget about it. In that moment, gratuitous. In that moment, you're going to possibly miss, and the lighting's not good and whatever. So just the likelihood of there being more defect or flaws are greater, we think.
Michelle says, glad to say I've never smelled urine at the Benz. Well, the ones here in Charlotte used to be much worse. They have gotten better. But all right,
Yes.
the fourth big disadvantage you've got is that you, especially as a new seller, you don't have very efficient processes yet.
Oh.
And that means that when you get home, you're going to get very bogged down in the process of listing and photos and so on. It is so easy to get bogged down in that process and not think about, oh, I got these 50 things. Well, where do they go? What's next? Oh, they need to be here. Well, how do I do that quickly? I mean, it's much easier when you've got 1 or 2 or 3 items. Mm-hmm. Even if your process sucks, you can still go through 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things very quickly. When you got to go through 50 or 100, mm-hmm. it's much more time consuming, especially when you don't have an efficient process. So that is something that you can learn on a smaller scale first and then apply it to more volume if you so choose.
Right. And I kind of, we don't have anything really in the bullets about bin etiquette and all of that stuff, because I see in the chat that there's lots of folks commenting on, it's a dog eat dog kind of scenario. You got to watch your back. People are aggressive.
Right.
And we're really not talking about that. But certainly if you're going to go to a new place, research, see what the Google reviews are on it, see what the locals think about it, et cetera. And yes, bins sometimes do get direct donations, but you're still competing with touch, people taking it, putting it back and all that stuff. So to kind of, not only are your processes perhaps not in order as a new reseller, and we all evolve, that's not a bad thing, but just because you take pictures, and we've changed too, just because you took pictures a certain way doesn't mean you're always going to take them that way or do it in that order, right? But the time to process, so each step, whether you batch or whether you just go through every single step with every single item in the moment at the same time, the time to process your items, that's huge, right? It takes a lot of time, especially when you're new. I think a lot of new resellers underestimate how long it takes, especially when you're listing something that you've never heard of before.
Right.
Like, oh, I found this, true story. We were, isn't it the first time we met Luke at the Benz here? And we got there first thing in the morning, and it was wonderful. And I found that scuba suit, remember? Right. And that was just wicked cool, but it was, that's a whole nother squirrel. Okay, so when you're when it's taking so much time to process, it becomes really easy for our death piles or
that's how the death piles happen.
Unlisted items or whatever you guys call your to-do pile. It sort of lends itself to it getting worse. Lends itself to getting out of control. Lends your hubby or your girlfriend or your whomever to be like, are you ever going to do anything with this stuff, or is it just going to pile up here, right? And it can also lead to feelings, your own feelings of being overwhelmed, unsuccessful, not good enough, and that it eats away at you. I really think it takes its toll on your own inertia, your own motivation to succeed and list the thingies, do the thingies, and be successful in your own business, right? And you might even regret the effort that you've made, or the money that you've spent, or I mean, it all just sort of adds up. It just sort of piles up. Piles up. Yeah, there you go.
The sixth thing that's really difficult for you guys, if you're sourcing the bins, scaling is really difficult. Now, that probably seems on the face of it a counterintuitive statement, but scaling from the bins is actually more difficult. And I'm going to tell you why. The time and energy to handle hundreds and hundreds of one-offs is super massive, because even for veteran sellers, most of the people out there that are in the reselling community that have tried or are currently trying to scale a bin strategy type approach are burning out or decide to pivot to something different. And it's just simply difficult. I mean, it's difficult to go source hundreds of items a week. Yes, you can buy them, but actually getting ones that are sellable and actually make sense is really challenging. And most people are going to burn out or decide to go in a different direction before they scale that large. And now if you have employees and you have other people to help you, yes. But the next point we're going to talk about is going to say why having employees is it's not impossible with a Benz strategy, but it's difficult.
And you're going to have me do the last one?
Well, I can do it if you want.
With all the math. Well, then you get to say all the thingies for the rest of the thing.
Well, I don't get to say all the things.
So profits for most bin sales is what we're trying to say here.
Yeah.
Are just not worth the time
just not worth it.
Required to produce them. Because again, when we go back to that first example of the one item for $50 versus the 50 for one item, or the 50 for $1 each, remember, you spent the same amount of time on that one item and got your money back sooner. And then you spent that same amount of time, maybe a little less, whatever, but you spent that same amount of time processing those 50 items times 50, right?
Right.
So there's an example here, and I'm going to kind of read it so I'm not too... Squirrels?
You want to do it?
I don't. Okay. It's some math.
Oh my gosh.
So example. So you have $15 bin sale with free shipping, right? And we're going to do it at after the fees. You'll net about $6. Now we're always assuming at least a $2 labor cost. And we should point out here that y'all, especially when you're just starting out, you don't ever add that in, and it's important.
Yeah.
It's important.
Even if you're doing it.
Right. It's important for you to consider the time it took, the fuel it took. You're worth it. Remember, you're bought the value of your time.
Right.
Your time is priceless. But in this instance, we're going to
price it at $2.
Price it at $2. Yeah. So, and that will include your labor costs for photos and listing specifically. Like, we're not putting all that other stuff into it. So, from just a strictly return on investment only, that's pretty good, right?
$6. Yeah, you're turning $1 into $6 profit. And it's not including overhead or taxes, but yes.
Right. However, if you sell 100 items a month, that's only $600 in profit. Did I just say only $600 in profit? Yes. But just stay with me, because I'm going to read it and it'll hopefully make more sense. So based on that, and keep with us, because it's about maintaining, it's about, not succumbing to inertia. You'll probably need to source, list, and photo 3 times that many to sell 100. Because best case scenario, best intentions, we are just not people. We're just not going to sell all of the thingies that we put out into the universe all of the time. It just doesn't happen that way. And whether it's because you're just not buying or selling what people want to buy, or maybe you believe eBay's throttling your listings or whatever, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Oh, this is your number. Why don't you do this one, because you researched this.
So again, just to reiterate, if you want to sell 100 items a month, you would probably need to list somewhere around 300 items a month. That's a lot. That means you're buying like 75 items a week, roughly. So you're going to the bins probably maybe even twice in a lot of cases, even if you're pretty quick. Maybe you're getting them all in one shot. That could be 2, but it's the same amount of hours either way. So the median U.S. household income in 2016 in the United States was $59,000, the household income. So to hit that number, median is not quite the same as the average, the one right in the middle. To hit that number, you would need to sell, with a Benz type strategy, if you're making $6 an item netting, 800 items a month. And I'm just going to tell you something. Selling 800 items a month on eBay is no easy feat. That means you would probably have to have listed, 3 times that many, maybe even more, which means you're going to be sourcing that many and photoing that listing. I'm going to tell you right now, to sell 800 items a month and to list 2,500 a month or so, I don't think one person could do it. You would have to be superhuman and just staying on your game all the time. You're probably going to have to hire somebody, and then your profit per item goes down even lower potentially. So it is a very difficult strategy because of the low amount of profit, not profit margin. The margin is pretty good. The return on investment is tremendous, but the actual dollars is not that great.
Right.
And thank you, John Haywood, for the super chat.
Oh, that's really sweet.
That was really nice of you. Thanks for sharing. You're very, very welcome, and that is much appreciated.
So I want to, yes, John, thank you so much. But I want to go right back to right above John, where Aaron says that, and usually Aaron's kidding, but I thought I could just copy what the clothing sellers on YouTube were doing and I would have huge sales. And you would be surprised how many people really believe that. You can't simply mimic what you see. One,
Right.
not all of it is in full disclosure, right? Some of it's shown through rose-colored glasses, and you need to be making sure that if you're going to play the comparison game, you're comparing apples to apples and
Right.
not apples to oranges the other way around. But it's not that simple. It's one of the reasons why we don't go into a lot of, like, every now and then we'll do haul stuff and we'll share brands and things like that. But there's no guarantee that if we find this pair of Levi's super low, super longs in our Goodwill, that you're going to find it in Idaho or Minnesota or Texas or wherever, Colorado. We've got people from Colorado. But you can't scale it,
Right.
and you can't repeat it. You cannot mimic what other resellers are doing. It's just not possible. You can come close by model
Right.
and how you do things, but the what and exact is just not going to happen.
Quinn, send me an email at profsales44@gmail.com. It's profsales44@gmail.com. And or you can send me a message on Facebook and we'll find out why you didn't get your jeans ebook. So sorry you didn't receive it, but we'll figure it out.
We will fix it for you.
All right. So here's the part where I'm going to tell you what to do, even if you are a Benz seller. You've decided, yeah, Prof, I've heard everything you said, and I'm still going to go do it. I don't care. You and Kaaren, whatever. What do y'all even know?
This is the part where you're about to jump the shark, isn't it?
It is. I'm about to say something that the reselling community is probably going to 100%, not 100%, but it's going to disagree with me. And I know why they're going to disagree with me, because they're stuck in sort of the same mindset. Some people are, and that's fine. But I'm going to tell you what your strategy should be if you are a new Benz seller, because we've already laid out that the amount of time and knowledge you need to be a successful Benz seller is incredibly intensive, and it's an incredible amount of time and energy. So here's what you should do. So let's say you have your sourcing budget of $50, right? 50. And you can buy items the Benz for basically $1 a piece. I'm going to tell you to do this. Go to the Benz, whatever Benz is near you. Go to the biggest pile of types of clothes you want to get. Let's say it's adult clothes. And take the first 50 items you find and put them in your cart and go check out. Don't look at brands. Don't look at condition. Don't look at quality. Don't look at anything like that. Take the first 50 items you can. The first 50 items, don't prejudge. Just pick on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go pay for them. Go home. See what you've got. You're going to have some duds. You're going to have some things that aren't sellable. Guess what? You can donate those things back and get some value back. And you only paid $1 or maybe even less. But you're going to learn a lot more in that than you are going in there, standing there with your phone for 4 hours and fighting through other people waiting for tables to come out. Go in and literally pick 50 random items. It does not matter. Take them home and figure out what you can sell and what you can't. That's bad, right? I just said something stupid. People are going to be like, that's a terrible idea.
And wouldn't it be cool if that's the only part of this entire video they saw? Then it would be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Sally says, that sounds painful to me. Actually, it's very easy. You're in there and out of there very quickly, because guess what? Your time is the most valuable commodity.
You forgot the first part. She said, have you lost your marbles?
I have lost my marbles. That's confirmed. But your time is so valuable, and a bin sourcing strategy is incredibly time consuming, especially for a new reseller. So just go in and buy 50 items. You're only going to be out $50 anyway, right? We know that's a fact.
Right,
and move on.
Can I bring us back now down to reality?
Yes.
So
I've lost the channel. I've lost the channel. It's over.
All right.
It's been a good run, YouTube.
So let me bring us all back. So anytime you learn, whether it's through making a mistake or a success or whatever, that's a win. It's not always going to feel like it, but especially when you're just starting out, knowledge is power, right? I think no matter where you are on the spectrum here of new seller to older seller, we're always learning. And if you're not, maybe you need to re-look at what you're doing and how you're doing it. But things are always changing. We're always learning. So maybe a better strategy than to just jump in and walk on the fire coals and whatever. But maybe a better strategy would be to learn a niche or two. right? Immerse yourself in a smaller, instead of walking into this vastness that is all of the thingies all at once. Maybe you concentrate. And we've said this before, and we'll say it until we're blue in the face. Become comfortable and knowledgeable with a smaller fishbowl, and you will become. You'll fine tune your skills and hone your skills a lot quicker, a lot better, a lot more successful when you do it that way, right? And
Yes.
source. We started out by saying source higher end items, right?
Yes. I mean, buy 1 to 5 items. Spend $50, $25, 33, not 30, 16, 33, whatever it is, $20 or $12.50 or $10.
Mm-hmm.
And just buy a few and then move forward. It'll be so much easier on you. And it's still the same capital risk, but now your time commitment has dwindled way down. And that's what's really valuable here, guys. Like, I just don't think the Benz strategy, when you take it in its whole, makes sense. I think it's harder for new sellers. I really do. Like, I think it's more difficult for all the reasons we've given in this video than it would be to go and do some retail arbitrage. Heck, even going to yard sales would be easier because you're just going to be so overwhelmed. You're going to pull out a lot of crap that's not worth that great anyway. And that's going to happen to you no matter what you do. You might as well go somewhere where you have a better chance of getting items that are, have some real value to resell.
Well, here's the thing. What you will get out of buying all the thingies is that you will get experience, right? But you'll also get, like we said, burnout quicker.
Right.
Because you're always on the circle gerbil thing, the runny circle.
Wheel. Yeah,
the
yeah.
wheel.
Right.
So you're like always
wheel,
running.
yeah.
You're always on the hamster. Sounds like
circle gerbil. I don't know.
Circle gerbil. So you're always on the circle gerbil, and you're just running, and that's why you get the burnout. And if someone's espousing this, the bins and the bulk, and it works, and you're new and you're watching on YouTube, you have to consider what is their real model. Friends of ours do well, but also the friends that did well in it, they had employees. It wasn't just a one-man show. It just wasn't one guy selling a bazillion things all by himself. He had to hire people. And consider that with that bulk model, you're going to have to sell a lot of those thingies to afford those employees.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what the Benz reminds me of?
What does it remind you
I've
of?
told this story before where I had a job when I was in college. I was working for a temporary agency, and I think I was working for either Home Shopping or QVC. It was one of the two. I don't remember which one. But I had to go in at this insanely early hour every morning. I had to be there like at 5 a.m. like to start, which is ridiculous on multiple levels. And my job consisted of taking these little inserts, these little catalog inserts, putting like 24 or 25 of them together and putting them in a box, just one after another. It was the most boring, tedious job in the world. And there was nothing that was going to make it any better. And that tedious part, like, I would have rather do anything with my time for the same money than that. Like, that was so mind-numbingly dull. So I asked them to switch my job and say, hey, can I do something different? And so after a couple of days, so they had me standing at the end of the line. And when all the boxes were done, I put the boxes on a pallet and put shrink wrap around them and moved them to another area. That was still much better than sitting there just doing this mind-numbing work. And I think the Benz is sometimes like that. Like, It's literally just going through mountains and mountains of crap to find not even a gem, but to find, like, a tarnished stone. I mean, it's not even that great of a thing usually that you find there. And it's just very little bang for a lot of bucks.
Well, and in order for it to be successful, and will it make money? Yes, it can make money. Don't mishear what we're saying. But once you get on that circle gerbil hamster wheel thing, it's all about volume. So you have to maintain a high amount of volume, quality, etc. Because I mean, you can't, like, what are you going to do? Not sell, you're going to have to sell a bazillion $9.99 free shipping items to maintain the income that you want to get.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that $15 free shipping I mentioned, that's actually higher than some people's model.
Yeah.
There are people who have a Benz strategy model where they price lower than that, because some of the prices you will see for these items on eBay are ridiculous, like $8.50 with free shipping. And I'm going, I mean, when you start doing the math on that, it doesn't make sense to put your labor, your time into an item you're going to sell for $8.50 with free shipping. Shipping's going to be $3.25, all day long, if not more on some items. So right away, you're down to like $5.25. You paid $1. Now you're down to $4.25. Now you got eBay's fees, 15-20% of that $8.50, which is another, $1.20 or whatever it is. I mean, you have nothing left. It's silly.
And here's my potentially controversial, but it's coming from a good place. Like so often, and with all resellers, like I wonder if it's not a what's it called? Oh, I don't know the word now. Like not a self-esteem, but a confidence issue. Like a lot of times we see things like, over the summer there was this, everybody was, dropping Luckies for like $10 or what, like craziness, right? And I think people sometimes get insecure or they get nervous, and then they feel like nobody's going to buy their stuff unless they sell it for really cheap. Yeah. Like that's the answer to the volume puzzle, right? It's not, because when you sell something valuable at a really low price, the perceived value for that item isn't necessarily going to follow you. Like not everybody. In fact, the majority of people are not going to look at that blown out for sale item as, oh, such a good deal. They're going to think, what's wrong with it? And so I would challenge you, like all of you are capable of doing better, doing more, selling higher, sourcing bigger. You can all do it. You don't have to get stuck on this hamster wheel. You can do it.
Yeah, somebody, Ken Ellis says it's a quick burnout. You have to go 7 days a week for like 6 hours a day and list all night and then repeat. God bless the people who can do it. But you're exactly right. And we have seen people who will stay there at the Benz hours and hours and hours a day. And I just think to myself, like, you're doing that for probably what doesn't even come out to be a minimum wage job when you figure out the amount of hours and time into it at that point. Like just from a cost benefit analysis there in terms of to your financial bottom line, if you're spending 60 hours a week between the time you're there sourcing, the time you're there driving, the time you're listing, the time you're photo, the time you're quality control, packing, shipping, all these things, you better be making some bucks.
Right. And I know we always joke about the cha-ching, like the endorphins and the rush we get when we hear it. But if your cha-ching was for a 99-cent auction that you just lost your pants, like literally on, like we gotta level that off a little bit, right?
Right.
Like we can all do.
And there's better, and I think a lot of people truly believe though in our community that to sell higher price items, you're gonna have to spend more for them, and they're gonna be more of a pain in the butt. I would argue sometimes you are going to have to spend more for them. That is true to some degree in some items, but are they any more of a pain to deal with? I don't think so. I mean, you still got to take a photo. You got to take some photos. You got to list them. You got to put in your item specifics, figure out shipping, all that kind of stuff, deal with any questions and deal with the occasional returns. So that doesn't change, but what does change is now, you might, if you're selling an item that nets you $20 versus one that nets you $5, you only got to sell one for every 4 if you sell the other one to be the same. And you only put in 1/4 of the work.
And that's one of the reasons why our evolution from jeans into new items, higher ticket items, we came out of a store the other night and I said to Jason, I'm like, all right, so this pair of shoes, which took us maybe 15 minutes to find, was what, 10 pair of jeans? And it wasn't quite, it was like 7.5. Whatever, just stay with me. So in that 15 minutes, and it would have taken us far longer to find those 10 pair of jeans, right? So in that instance, boop, better. Yeah. I mean, it's, again, guys, I think it would be disingenuous if we came on here and, painted something with, looked at something with rose-colored glasses and said, oh, this is great. You should do this. Like, I'm never going to do that. If I think something makes sense for people, I will absolutely advocate for it and push for it all day long until it doesn't make sense. And then if it stops making sense, then I will admit that, hey, it no longer makes sense. But we've tried the Benz method. We've seen friends who've done it. I have so many stories I could tell you from behind the scenes, some of which you've probably heard, some you haven't, that just suggest that people who are better resellers than us and have more knowledge than us and more experience than us fail at it. I mean, they don't fail in the sense they're a failure, but they fail at making it work and hit the objectives they want it to hit because it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult
So, we just think that you have to move into any kind of business model with your eyes open, having all the information you can. If you're new, I would not recommend you starting with a Benz strategy as a new seller on eBay. I think it's a mistake. I'll just say it like that. Unless you want to do the random 50 items like I told you. Cut your time down. Somebody's going to say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. It's probably multiple people.
So it's just like your cookies or your lemonade stand or whatever. Make some money and put it back into your business. Don't jump in, both feet, eyes closed, not paying attention. Be purposeful in going out and grabbing it and killing it, and you can do it. You don't have to. There's a term. Right. There's a term in sales called "drop your pants," right? And that means you don't have to give it away. Just stay with me. It's a real thing. Skip, tell him. Adam, tell him. But it's a real thing, right? You don't have to get stuck in this grind. You just have to. And gosh, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. You don't have to work harder. You have to work smarter. Because otherwise, we mentioned like if you're spending 60 hours, it must be Friday, I'm getting on a soapbox. So, you mentioned if you're spending 60 hours a week sourcing, or if you're spending 60, you're trading maybe that full-time job that you left because you hated it for this reseller radical lifestyle. You're for a part-time, minimum wage job.
Right.
Who wants that?
Right.
Like we want the freedom, but we also want to make more of the money, right?
Right.
We want to be able to make our own schedule. We want to be able to prosper. So,
yeah. And I think to the point that can you go to the Benz and hit home runs and find items? Of course you can. But I would argue you can find them just as easily in other places that are much more organized and have much less to look through. So again, what is your time worth? Because the Benz is probably the least efficient way to source items. Can you get a lot of cheap items very quickly? Absolutely. Can you find home runs there cheaply, quickly? No.
Quickly? No, probably not.
Not quickly.
Can you? Sure.
Of course you can. We found them too. But I don't know that it's worth it. Like the extra amount you save on the price. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say that I was sourcing jeans and I went to the Benz versus a regular Goodwill. A regular Goodwill with us is going to have a men's section and a women's section of jeans. It's going to have them on hangers. It's going to have where I can very quickly go through the hangers. And you and I can go through 300-400 pair of jeans in 15 minutes maybe?
Sure.
Maybe, right? A lot of jeans we can go, maybe even quicker and pull out sometimes 20, 25 pair. I'm going to pay $4.99 for those jeans here locally, $4.99. But I'm going to go through several hundred in 15 or 20 minutes. If I go to the Benz here in Charlotte, and because I figured this out, I'm going to pay $2.05 for a pair of jeans, a little less than half what I pay at the retail store. It would take me hours to go through 300 pair of jeans in the Benz because I got to find them. And I don't know that there are 300 pair of adult jeans in our Benz stores.
Well, and we tried once. We went and our strategy was to grab everything made out of denim, right?
Right.
And it didn't amount to maybe 40 pair, maybe, or 40 items, maybe.
Right.
And we kept maybe 9.
Right. It wasn't efficient.
So the point is, your time is valuable. Spend it educating yourself and getting better, not getting stuck on the gerbil circle, right? So speaking of jeans, we had a question earlier about jeans and if we clean them. Yes, we clean our jeans. However, if they're selvage, the whole point of selvage is you're not supposed to wash them. So keep that in mind. You actually ruin them if you do that. And we also disinfect our shoes too. So just to be clear.
Yeah. So, and if you guys have other questions and comments, we got about 15 minutes left here. Please leave them in the chat. We'll be glad to answer anything we can about the topic or anything else.
Yeah. Well, just ask any old question and just put it in all caps or I'll put question mark, or whatever.
Skip pays $1.97 in his Goodwills for jeans. Well, you know what I did? I actually I weighed 10 of them to see what they weighed and then just divided by 10 and figured out. And our jeans cost basically $1.49 a pound after tax. So that's how I figured out they were just a bit over $2. So anyway, you know me. All right, so let's talk about some other things. April sales. We're going to talk about that. April is what, 5 days in. We're in the middle of 6th day. And our new strategy, which ties right in with this topic of pushing up our average selling price, is going great. Now, the phones last month blew the average selling price way out of the water and went like super high.
But they're about to drop off. So
right. And they're not in this April number. But in April, our average selling price is now up to $28.03 per item, which is, to give you context, is about 30% higher than it was last year for the year. So that's a nice bump up, and that's going to get even higher, I feel like. And that's being pushed down right now because we're discounting a lot of jeans for $15. So it's kind of getting pushed down some. As those sort of fall off more and more, that should go higher. So that average selling price, that really starts helping with the profitability, obviously. So I'm really excited about that. So be curious to hear how everybody else's April has gone so far. We're, 1/6 of the way in. We're 5 days in plus today. So what were you going to talk? You had something you were going to talk about too.
Well, I have a couple of things. So last night, did anybody tune in to our CPA Jared did his first live show?
Yeah, that's
and it was
right.
absolutely adorable. So we put a link on our Facebook group and such, but Mr. CPA, and it's unfortunate that there weren't more people, but you can still make a comment on his videos because he's brand new.
Yeah, he hasn't put out a lot of content.
He was
like,
he would answer any question.
Yeah, you had like a live CPA, which would have cost you a lot of money to go for an hour, like with your CPA. But we have a couple questions here too. Are you definitely going to the eBay Open?
Are you?
I don't know. I think we are. I think it's like 99% because it's a whole long thing. But yes, that did come up on somebody else's show. Maybe it was Casey's show. And yeah, so our plan right now is to go.
So Sally, you know us, you'll have friends. There's a lot of other resellers, YouTube folks that are going this time around. Sally Walker.
That's
she doesn't. Sally doesn't want to go because she doesn't know anyone. Come on, catch up. Yes. So you have a whole family here, a whole community here, and there are a lot of folks. So just come. And it's for me to go, it's about education. Like there's a lot to learn.
We'll make you feel at home.
Yeah. Besides the community thing, like there's so much opportunity to learn.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Network, of course. So.
Absolutely. Let's see here. There's some other questions here. Jason, are you guys buying all wholesale now? No, actually no wholesale at this moment. I would love to explore that a little more, but right now it's not really it's not in the near future. But down the road, I don't know. Possibly. Sure. Rhiannon asks.
It's a great question. Go ahead.
You want to?
No, go ahead. You do it.
Do you think it's worth it to pick up a few lower priced items similar to things at the bins to amp up sell-through rate for eBay if you know they sell fast? Well, I mean, I think it's always good to pick up things that sell fast, right? Because that maximizes your capital and the minimum amount of time, hopefully for the minimal amount of effort. They're not a lot of effort to list. Sure. But I just don't know that the bins make the most sense to go there to get them.
Well, and here's the thing, like with new resellers, and technically that would be me, right? With my account, like feedback. It's
sure.
Like it's important. It's not important depending upon who you ask. But getting the stars and the likes on the eBay is important too. So the more you sell, the more potential you have for feedback. So yeah, Rhiannon, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yvonne mentioned eBay has some contests running for free tickets. That's right, they do. They do have contests running for free tickets.
Let's enter that contest then.
Let's see what else is here. I will be in Vegas with my bodyguard. No autographs, please. Flipper Joe.
Joe, you're taking me to lunch. I don't even want to hear about this bodyguard thing. You and me, Vegas, baby.
Exactly. There you go. And Rope and Reseller says at eBay Open, you'll meet a lot of people. There are meals and parties with chances to socialize and access to eBay employees. Yeah. And I mean, I think, any of the reseller meetups we've had and so on, hopefully, I mean, I make an effort to try to speak to everybody and get to it's difficult sometimes when it's a lot of people there. When you got like 20, 30 people, it gets challenging to spend a lot of time with, really anybody. But we make an effort to do it. And I think a lot of the people in the reselling community, as well as the people that talk about it on YouTube, I think for the most part, they're pretty good about that.
Yeah, and I think that we're coming into a new dawn, a new age for this community. And
Age of Aquarius.
I'm kind of getting
Ooh.
this feeling, this inkling that we're all kind of coming together. Not that we'll always be on the same page, but when it comes to being positive and supportive and just maybe in sometimes agreeing to disagree, whatever, like I think that we're going to have a rare opportunity to really make some headway and some positive impact, prolonged impact on this community in particular. So.
I totally agree with that. Sadie says, are you happy with your decision to get the warehouse so far?
A what? No, of course we are, you big silly. The weird thing though is that our home is now empty. We have over 400 square feet between the spaces, 5 spaces arguably that are now empty. That
hate it.
So we're thinking about renting out a room, letting the neighbor park their car in our garage. I don't know. But hey, if there's anybody in the chat, and I say that because by the time you're seeing this video later, if there's any Charlotte resellers in the chat, don't reply in the chat, send us an email instead. But I'm tired of looking at that pile of books. Should we go show everybody? Would that make sense or no?
Yeah.
We've put it up before. It's like a couple hundred books. Just come and get them. I will give them to you. But you have to send us a note.
Free books.
It's like a couple hundred, and it's anywhere from kids' books. There's actually a bin full of really old books from the 60s and 70s that I just don't have the patience for. That were
could
family
be some valuable
kind of
ones
thing.
there. Not sure.
But just send us a message. We don't take drop-ins here, so send us a note, and we will make arrangements. But I would love to give these books to a good home reseller or otherwise. But you have to take all of them.
Yeah, that's the rule. You must take all, but the price is $0. So
and I might even give you that bookshelf. Are you attached to that bookshelf?
No, I don't like it at
all. All right, well, there you go. Bonus. So
bookshelf too, if you want it.
Come prepared, but send us a note separate.
And Red Nickerson will give you $1.77. No, he won't, but he'll give us one. So thank you very much for the super chat, Red. I love that total so much.
I do too. So one day you're gonna have to tell us why 177.
He's told me on Facebook.
Oh, has he?
Somebody wanted to see your shirt.
Oh, it's my present from Yvonne.
They said, does it say straight out of the farm?
Straight off the farm, my friend. No, it's straight out of Colorado, This was my present from Yvonne when I just got back from Colorado late Tuesday evening and got to spend and meet and just experience Yvonne flippin' easy. And she she bought me a present. And it's just what it is. It made her laugh, and it made me laugh that it tickled her so there you go. So that's it. Straight out of Colorado.
I had a funny return today. I was going to share with you guys. So this was a consignment item, and it was a pair of
maybe we'll see.
It was a pair of shoes that I sold on consignment, and they came back, and the person wanted to return them, and they said, well, I want to return them because they don't fit. But then the second part of the thing they wrote is, the right shoe squeaks. I don't even know what that means.
What does that even mean? Like, I was going to put them on. I was afraid. Like, I would put them on and they'd go squeak.
I just think it's their foot, and I wanted to write back so bad and say, well, when I tried them on, mine didn't squeak. So maybe it's just your foot. It's your house. It's your shoe. So I don't know. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Just do it.
Oh my gosh, what is it?
There. It's like this big bye-bye.
Oh, there you go. So it was kind of one of those weird things where, I don't really know why they wanted to return it exactly, other than it didn't fit. But I just thought it was funny that they put in there that, oh, well, it's because it squeaks as well. So apparently that's a problem with some people in shoes. The shoe squeaks.
I would worry if it squeaked and it was just sitting in the box, right? Like, that would worry me. But
I've heard shoes that squeak where they almost new. They were new. I
guess you can put them on your feet and.
They were new. They were absolutely new. So we'll see what happens. I haven't gotten them back yet. But I just thought that was funny.
Squeak, squeak.
I can't wear these. They squeak too much.
So someone local, please come take these books. They're free.
Oh, yeah. Rope and Reseller had said, I had a pair like that once. They drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Merrill made the shoe. I'm going to blame them. Did they do item?
That's what I asked, actually.
Did they do item not as described? No, they didn't. they put in there they didn't fit and that auto accepted the return, and they were free shipping on the front end. So if they would have put item not as described, I probably would have kind of fought that one a little bit and said, hey, look, these were free shipping to start with, and they didn't fit them. But the fact that they squeak, that's ridiculous. Like, that's not a realistic reason to put item not as described.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I would just say it's their foot that squeaked because they didn't squeak when I had them on. It's your foot's the problem, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer.
So if you got anything out of this video, Prof wears women's shoes.
Were they women's? I don't remember if they were or not. Yeah, I think they are women's, right? I don't remember. Someone tried to return shoes to Savannah because they weren't comfortable enough.
The squeak kind of threw me.
I mean, ultimately, I'm always like, return it for whatever you want, but don't ask me to pay the shipping if it just didn't work for you. Like, that's not legitimate. If I screwed up the listing and I didn't show you something, or I didn't say, I didn't disclose something about them, fine. But if you just didn't like them, this is not a try-on store. Although apparently Amazon is going to that, as we mentioned.
Yeah, and we got all ready to do this whole show on it, but apparently it's not as bad as it looked on the surface. So Amazon just did this new thing, and it's funny that we're going off topic to wrap up with this, but Amazon just did this new thing where you can bundle things together, like this shirt, this shoe, this skirt, whatever.
Up to 3 items, I think.
And you only have to pay for what you want to keep, and then you can return the other stuff for free.
You get like 7 days. They call it Prime Wardrobe, and it's for Prime members. And right now, I think it's only with Amazon that Amazon is selling.
Right.
Who knows?
It's Amazon thingies right now. So we didn't find it that we needed to do a whole show on it, but who knows what we're moving towards or to, right?
Yeah, I mean, so basically you get the items at home, you can keep them for 7 days, and then whatever you don't want, you send back what doesn't work for you. So it effectively is giving you a dressing room for 7 days, and you pay for whatever. And if you didn't want any of it and they provide the return label, then you send it all back. Don't know if that's a sign of things to come or not. It could be. I wouldn't be surprised if they move in that direction, potentially with shoes or potentially with clothes. But Amazon's clothes are all new, which is interesting because you would think if people know their sizes and their, things like that. I mean, there can be problems sometimes, or, shoes, one can fit a little weird. I mean, that can happen. But ultimately, people should somewhat know with a new item, what it's going to look like and fit like. But Amazon is going to test it and see if that works for them. So kind of curious to see what that looks like. Putting them in the dryer can sometimes stop the squeak. Oh, I didn't know that. We've never had this issue before. What is the best way to get buyers to leave feedback? That's a great question.
Threaten them. Send them cash money. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
Squeak up or else. No, I think what you can do is put it on your invoice, and you don't want to say, hey, you have to give us positive feedback. We can just say, hey, we would really appreciate your feedback on this item. We put, on the invoice. That's fine. And if you have an issue, please contact us before leaving it, and we'll see if we can make it right. We'll do our best to make it right. So sometimes that can help. It's just a little reminder. But ultimately, you just got to grin and bear it. Feedback on eBay is not becoming that big of a thing anymore, honestly.
Yeah, it's not as mission critical. But I would say I would take this. It's rethreads, right? I would do this. Like, always do the best you can. Always put your best foot forward. Don't cram the thing into this envelope and have a crooked label and a this ripped that or a this sticking out of that. Like, be purposeful in what you do and how you do it. And some folks will, I still to this day sign every invoice that we send out. If I had my way, I would put cute little stickers. I'm not going to do the thank you.
The bin sourcing strategy for shipping.
I'm not going to do the thank you postcards, although it was cool in the free thingies email. Thank you, Skip, as always, for posting it for everyone, because I ordered mine last night. But eBay will send you thank you postcards that you can put in. But you can also you can make them. I don't have any more, but I made my own stickers that said, please consider leaving positive feedback. Or, I feed off of feedback, or, come up with something cute that people will remember and it'll get their attention.
Right.
But just do your best, and that's going to give you good feedback.
What would you do if a buyer buys an item and you notice a flaw with the item while prepping the item for shipping? Let's ask you, new eBay seller, what would you do?
I I put on the brakes.
Hide it. Just pretend like it didn't happen.
You don't mean that. Don't, no, especially new people, don't listen to him. And we have had that happen before. Like we've noticed a button has come off or there's a stain.
Right.
And if it's something that we did not disclose in the photo or in the description, we most certainly tell them, especially if it's something major. And we've had to say, you know, we're really sorry, we didn't catch this. And we've, you know, what have we done? Have we offered to send it to them anyway for
you can give them different options there. I mean, think about putting yourself in their place. So you didn't disclose it, so now you're going to disclose it to them, and you can ask them if they want to cancel, depending on what the issue is. That's always an option. It kind of sucks, but you can send it to them, and if they decide not to, they don't like it anyway, that they can ship it back for free, or they could just keep it. That might even be like, I know that seems extreme to some people, but it's legitimate in some cases, especially if it's a lower dollar item. Or you could even offer to give them a discounted percentage off. That's a little more tricky to do sometimes. I don't really like doing that one because a lot of times people are fine with it, depending on what it is. You know, it obviously depends. But just give them some options. Be very apologetic. Apologize for the inconvenience. You're not trying to put one over on them. I think most people get that people make mistakes. But it's when you try to sort of lie and cover it up that becomes an issue. But I would just tell them.
And Mary, I'm the same exact way, right? It's the golden rule. You treat other people how you want to be treated. You package the thingies how you would want to receive them. So I'm the same way. Like I put it out there how I would want it to come to my house in the first place. And speaking of INADs, another term we throw around, item not as described. Did we talk about the wear on knee thing that we just got back? Or is that a sore subject we can't talk about?
That's not a sore subject.
All right, so we just got a return, and it was an item not as described.
Her jeans.
Because one of the knees, and if we still had it, I would show it to you because it's not such a big deal. But it's an older pair, and one of the knees on the jeans is a little lighter than the other. So what ended up happening? What'd you do about that, Prof?
Well, I paid for the shipping label to send it back. Well, she said that they weren't the size they said on the tag. And I'm like, well, the measurements were in the listing, but whatever, you didn't see those. Okay, great. And then we did not take a photo of the knee.
Oh, we did?
We did not. We did not have a full-length photo of this particular pair. So technically, eBay would probably side with her, even though the quote-unquote damage or wear was like, if the knee is supposed to be at 100 to be pristine, these were like what, a 96? I mean, they were just so, it was not wear on the knee for any, it could even argue it even came that way, honestly. But we didn't have a photo of it, so we really wouldn't have had much of a case. I'm like, I'm not going to argue this over a small amount of money and potentially get this escalated and get a defect. So there you go.
Jinx.
There you go. We gotta get out of here.
Yeah. So on that note,
Friday weekend.
Yeah. So
Party time.
We were a little chatty on this Friday, but hey, it's getting warmer outside, so maybe there's some more additional yard sales and estate sales that everybody will go to. So we're glad you guys could come. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you have a question and you're watching this later, write it down below because I guarantee we like to hear it. We love the interaction, and I guarantee you there's someone else that has the very same question that you do, and like we call it a time capsule, it sort of pays it forward to give knowledge to other people as we go.
Check out the links below, guys, and consider hitting the like button.
Smash the like button, mateys.
I was waiting for that. And we'll see you guys back on Monday. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend.
As always, this is Just Ask Kaaren
and Prof Sales
saying good sales to you.